Oh, you two people. You two people. Neo Cards and Comics here. The ultra modern quarterback is the death of your bankrolls. Sheesh. Joe Burrow, done for the season, unfortunately. And it just adds to a trend of specifically this season, but you go back, and I've done plenty of videos on this over the years, of the dangers of holding players into season, specifically football, into season that have any sort of expectations on them whatsoever. If you have some low dollar, low investment, backup quarterback, if you're buying Josh Dobbs in the offseason for a potential flip later in the year, Sam Darnold, whatever, you got some little project thing. Defensive players, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. One, the cost of entry is low on those guys, and it does not take much for them to go up. And also the people buying those cards are typically more collector-oriented versus flippers, so they're just willing to pay fair market prices versus needing some room, bro. There's so much hype put on these players in the off seasons, and that's why I usually say, if you bought football all spring and summer long, dump it all at the National. Just unless it's those few little instances that we talked about. Because almost always, like clockwork, and like I said, I've done this video at the end of every football season since I had the channel, I believe. There are very few cards that actually end up in the green. If you're going with the strategy of, I'm going to pick up this XYZ hyped player in the late summer, early fall, and then ride them to the Super Bowl, it's going to be great. That is just not typically how this stuff works out. We're going to run through some stuff here, but so far, this might be one of the bigger disaster seasons ever. You had a bunch of young hyped guys that have drastically underperformed. You have injuries, and just really this total season, from a quarterback perspective specifically, is kind of a mess. Don't worry, though, everybody. Here comes CJ Stroud to save us. I can already imagine. Just think now. Go out 9 months from now. The hype that is going to be around Stroud going into the National next year. I don't even know how the season's going to end yet. God forbid they make any sort of splashes in free agency. CJ Stroud will be the guy everybody is talking about at next year's National. Justifiably so. He's having a great season. Here's the problem, though. He hasn't had any cards before the season started. They're just coming out now, just in time to sell those break spots. Let's look at some quarterback pricing. It's been a mess. This is Prism Silver's going back 90 days, which puts us right before the National. So if you loaded up on these players at the National and said, got this all figured out, this guy's going to the playoffs, it's going to be great. How many are actually in the green? There's one outlier here. I use Optic Hollows for 2018. We'll get to those guys in a second. That's your Allen, Baker, and Lamar class. But I've put in pretty much every ultra-modern quarterback on here. In the green, if you just bought it right before the National and held to this point, Brock Purdy, your big winner, up 55%. And he's actually on the downswing. That was higher a couple weeks ago, about a month ago. Jared Goff, up 10%. Tua, up 10%. He was up way more than that a couple weeks ago as well. His stuff has kind of course corrected a little bit. That's it. Those are the guys in the green. I picked out probably in the high 20s of the starting quarterbacks here. The few guys I left out were like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, like those sorts of guys. Basically anyone from 2016 or newer is on this list. So Purdy, Goff, and Tua are the only guys in the green. Who's killed you the most? Kyler, basically flat, not that bad. Dak Prescott, down ever so slightly. Dak, having a great year. The much ballyhooed Patrick Mahomes, down 20-some% since right before the National. Sam Howell, actually having a great fantasy season. The Redskins are just irrelevant. I'm sorry. Put $1 in the swear jar. Said a bad word. My fault. My fault. The Commanders down 30%. Jalen Hurts just wrecking shop, wrecking people. Tush push, whole 9 yards. A.J. Brown looks like a world beater. Down 32%. Justin Herbert, he's on the Chargers. Sorry about your luck. Burrow down 40%, and that is pre-injury news, as that just came out today. I'm sure he will be everyone's gotta buy this guy on the way down guy. Maybe he gets some hype going in the next year's season. Trevor Lawrence. Had someone in the comments say the other day, I was too rough on Trevor Lawrence. The Jacksonville Jaguars are really, really good. You're right. Jaguars have a nice winning season. Guess what? That's not good enough. Down 42%. And before someone gets in there with the whole market's down, duh, all these cards are going down. Sure, you're right. But once again, this follows the pattern that we have seen year after year after year after year with football. Since the hobby boomed again, almost all these cards, especially when you're talking about hyped quarterbacks, go down once the season starts. Jordan Love down 70%. Remember how hyped he was when Aaron Rodgers was leaving? Daniel Jones, done for the season, down 75%. Desmond Ridder, down 75%. And none other, finishing up the bottom of this list, Mac Jones, down 80% on his Silver Prism. Let's look at some Opticalos. Lamar Jackson, up. Another one in the green. Once again, the reason we use Opticalos for 2018 is because the silver pop count is super low. Baker Mayfield down $2. Baker Mayfield is one of the better performing quarterbacks of the 2023 season in regards to prices. And then Josh Allen down 37% for a $400 drop. Now, could some of these guys turn it around the back half of the season? Absolutely. If you told me that, now that basically the AFC is essentially falling apart, it's really just Lamar and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. It is devastation city with quarterbacks. That, the Bills go on a deep playoff run and they make the Super Bowl. I know. Crazier things have happened. Would I be shocked if I sat here and ran 90-day charts from, the AFC Championship game if Josh Allen was in the green? No, I wouldn't be. So some of this stuff can turn around. We got a ways to go. But some of these guys are, if you kind of scroll through this list, who is most likely to rebound? My number one candidate probably would be Josh Allen, just given the news that the Bengals are basically toast. Could Lamar go up between now and the end of the season, given that he's barely up at all? Same thing if they would make some deep run, maybe. The Burrow thing is shot now. Trevor Lawrence, I guess, maybe, after I just kind of talked bad about him. I don't know. He doesn't really look that spectacular. They win football games, that's fine, but he's not exactly like lighting up the scoreboard. I have him in fantasy. Trust me, I'm well aware. Maybe Brock Purdy gets back up there. I don't know. This list is just very, very messy, and it has just as much to do with the current state of quarterback play in the NFL as it does anything else. But don't worry, CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams will be here soon enough to save us all. I would love to know, and there's no way to know this. It would just be, you need a crystal ball to figure this out. How much money do you think just went poof on people that spot modern quarterbacks late summer? Like, how much of that money just went poof in the air, gone, just floating away, disappeared? Guess it's not a loss until you actually go to sell. Listen, if you're a fan of the team and you want to root for your guy, trust me, I get it. I'm the guy that bought Baker Mayfield a few years ago at the National because I was ride or die with my boy Baker. Worked out terribly financially, but I enjoyed owning the cards. That there is an aspect of that to all this. Like, let's not forget about, the base level why we're supposed to be doing this all. But if your plan is, let me buy X, Y, or Z quarterback, hold them into season, #profit, that is probably not going to happen, more than likely. Are there a few outliers? Yeah, there'll be a few every year. You could have done really well on Brock Purdy. you could have did really well on Tua. And then you did really well on like some real fringe guys. If you were the Josh Dobbs super collector, enjoy your Honda Pilot that you just bought with your profits. Not even a Civic. Not even a Civic. If you were a Dobbs super collector, you're going to afford a Honda Pilot. Enjoy it. Outside of instances like that, it takes so much for these guys to go up. We talk about it all the time. I feel like I sound like a broken record. Expectations meet reality, and the expectations are too lofty to support the large prices that we place on top of these guys. Take your profits in the end of the summer. Maybe you don't maximize the value. That's okay. More than likely, those cards will go down as we move into season. Once again, kind of focusing around starting quarterbacks here. Unless you got a little pet project. I get it. I get it. But the Burrows, the Herberts, next year the Strouds. Listen, Stroud Silver Prisms are going to be, Stroud everything. People are going to be hunting for desperately come Cleveland National at the IX Center. It's in Ohio as well. You're going to have the Ohio State factor playing into that. And as good as Stroud is and as fun as he is to watch play, we could probably have the same conversation next year. When Stroud gets in the season, it's going to be tough to maintain those prices. Mahomes is the case point for this. The Chiefs are probably one of the favorites in the AFC. Mahomes is having a pretty good season with an absolute dog crap wide receiver core. And his card prices are down 25%. And I'm sure someone will kind of try to blame the overall macroeconomic conditions. And I'm sure that's part of it, like I said. But generally speaking, these guys just cannot hold their value when they walk in with massive price tags. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Catch you on the next one. Peace.